Did you have them down as being the best transfer window? I could think of at least 3 teams I'd put in.
I did say Tottenham, to be fair.
The question is, who do you think's had the best window? Not who do you think had the best window, but don't say the obvious one.
Definitely a player you can imagine in the North London derby. He'll either score a winner or get sent off. Like he just doesn't care. He doesn't care about all of the drama that comes. He pretty much is the drama, and I think Conte's going to love that and could really turn him into an animal.
But he doesn't seem to get in the right positions, and I think they paid 15 million for him, and there's no real rumours of Wolves getting another attacker in. So yeah, that concerns me, that signing.
Fofana's been courted by Chelsea. They've had to reject a bid from Newcastle for Maddison. There was even some stuff about Kasper Schmeichel maybe going to Nice in the week. So like it's just been awful for them, really.
Well, Calvert-Lewin can't stay fit either, so there's every chance he'll be putting the ball in the box for Solomon Rondon, in which case you aren't getting any assists either, do I now? Could be a bad season, or Everton, I'm worried about them.
It looks like Lampard's gone for a 3-4-3 system in pre-season. So it's been a Tarkowski, Michael Keane, Ben Godfrey, or sometimes Yerry Mina, back three. That's got disaster written all over it for me. It will be down to his partner to try and sweep around him like Koundé did. And do Villa have that at the back? I do have some worries.
You're out of order, Rush.
I would hide the rest of the show if I was you.
Coming on the show with that slander. Hello and welcome back to the Edge of the Box podcast, a podcast by WhoScored.com. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by Josh from WhoScored as ever, and Raj this week from Premier League Panel. We've already previewed the Big Six in previous shows, so go back and check them out if you haven't done so already. This week, we're going to preview the Premier League in general. And Josh, I believe we're going to start with how our predictions panned out this time last year. Not thought much about my WhoScored predictions from last July or August, so I'm dreading to think how this was.
There wasn't a lot of respect for Liverpool's name, and I'll just put it that way. This time last year, a lot of you had them either to come third or fourth. Most of you guys thought that Chelsea were going to come second. I think based on the Lukaku signing, which I think everyone thought it would go really well. But they finished 19 points behind Man City, as they did the season before they had Lukaku back. Dan, you actually smashed it, to be fair, with the team you thought that would do really badly. You picked Everton as the big strugglers, and obviously they narrowly, just avoided relegation. But yeah, hopefully we'll have some better predictions this time around.
I think I had Chelsea to win the league, didn't I? Looking back, I've remembered that now. I honestly just thought Lukaku would be. They didn't even have a missing piece in the puzzle at that point because they'd won the Champions League. But I just thought he'd make them unstoppable. I don't think I was harsh on Liverpool though. I think I may have had Liverpool second or third. I wasn't harsh on them.
I think it was possibly third.
Okay, I wasn't too, but I was only 1 out, wasn't I? You can't have a go at that. Right then, shall we start with the transfer roundup? So we're going to start with who we think in the Premier League has had the. I haven't even asked you how you are, Raj. Raj, how are you? Are you okay?
Yeah, good thanks.
Welcome to the show. Are you all right?
Yeah, good. Good little taster into the new season yesterday. So yeah, ready for it after the Community Shield. It was a good match, wasn't it?
Has that affected any of your predictions? Obviously, we did make them earlier on in the week, so you can't put too much credence on what you've seen because you can't change it. But you know, it was impressive from Liverpool yesterday.
Impressive as well, and I think it did show a bit of a small weakness in Manchester City squad with those wide options now missing Sterling and Jesus, who Pep used to rely on all the time in the big games, and Grealish and Mahrez. That dynamic didn't really work that well, so maybe something to look at there in the future.
Yep. So let's start then with the transfer roundup. Now I've said hello to Raj and welcomed him to the podcast that we're so grateful he's come on. We're going to start with who we think's had the best window. So Josh, is this you or is this WhoScored?
This part is me. There are some parts which are WhoScored, but this is me. I do think it's probably pretty hard to argue against Tottenham having the best window, but I thought that maybe at least one of you guys would go for them. So I've mixed it up a little bit and I've gone for Newcastle. I think it's mainly this. I probably shouldn't have counted the last window, but I think it's mainly just been impressed with the way Newcastle have gone about spending the money that they have done. They've not. I thought everyone probably thought that they would make a Robinho type signing that Manchester City did, and teams like PSG, Real Madrid, and Barcelona were probably rubbing their hands together when the new owners came in at Newcastle, thinking they would take off all of their like high earners, deadwood sort of players. But it just hasn't been the case, and I think Chris Wood's probably the only dodgy signing they've made in the last 6 months, but. They took him from a direct relegation rival when Burnley got relegated. And after that, they signed Nick Pope from them for a cheaper deal. So it went well in that respect. But yeah, Newcastle, I'd say have had the best window. I like the signing of Sven Botman, someone that they've tracked for a while. I think he improves their defence. We're going to see another season of progress from them, I have no doubt. I do think they're still short of pushing for those European places. I would say that they probably need someone that can be an upgrade on John Joe Shelvey, and a lot does depend on how fit Callum Wilson can stay for the rest of the season, or for the season, sorry. But yeah, Newcastle are mine, and also pleased that Eddie Howe sort of proved me wrong at the end of last season. I thought they were the ship goals, as his Bournemouth side did, but he really improved them in both ends of the pitch. So yeah, Newcastle for me have had the best window apart from Tottenham, really.
You're so niche, honestly. I think Botman is a good signing, but he's left centre back. So they signed Dan Burns to play left centre back. So I presume it's going to be Shah and Botman. So
strength and depth then.
Yeah, but if Shah's out, then probably Lascelles comes in for him and Burns the backup for Botman. But I'm not convinced that Lascelles is a top Premier League defender, like a top half Premier League defender. Pope's a great signing in goal. I think they had problems in goal. I think goalkeeper was a real problem for Newcastle. I would say that I think they've done well to not get sucked into just buying anyone. I think there obviously is a couple of areas they need to strengthen, Raj. But would you have them down as being the best transfer window? I could think of at least 3 teams I'd put in.
I did say Tottenham, to be fair, but I just wanted to because I thought one of you guys would say them, so I didn't want it to be too samey.
But the question is, who do you think's had the best window? Not who do you think had the best window, but don't say the obvious one.
He's made a good prediction of my prediction, to be fair, because I have gone for Spurs. So.
Have you? Well, I've gone for someone different to you, Raj. But go on and talk to us about Spurs.
I like this window a lot, to be honest. I think there is a theme with all 3 of the 4 buys they've made as well. They've got that. All 3 of those buys have got aggression and hard work and industry, which is a core principle for Conte. You saw the likes of Ndombele and Lo Celso weren't providing that for him, and he quickly shipped them out because that is one thing he definitely wants. So yeah, starting with Perisic, I think that it's a pretty simple buy, but it's an effective buy. I think this guy's been one of my favourite players to watch over the years. I think he's really underrated. He's played key roles for Croatia, even Bayern Munich when he went on loan there, and then Inter as well, helped them win Serie A. So I think that left wing back Spurs had a few issues there. Sessegnon did kind of prove his worth towards the end of the season, but Reguilon was kind of an underperformer for them. So Perisic comes in as kind of a bona fide performer there. He's going to add to the chance creation. He's 2-footed. He can get crosses in from any angle, really, because of that 2-footedness. And he's got a bit of a goal threat as well. So I like that one. Basuma, I think that's a top buy. I think what Spurs are missing in that midfield was a bit of a technical quality there. Basuma's got that. He's not going to create you loads, but he's got amazing press resistance. He can keep hold of the ball under any kind of pressure, and that's kind of his main trait. And plus, he's got that physicality that Conte likes. Conte plays pretty aggressive mid block, so his midfielders need to be really hot on the other team when they play the ball into the middle third of the pitch. Basuma fits into that beautifully and got that added technical quality as well. And then Richarlison, that's been a troublesome slot for Spurs for quite a few years, even going back to Pochettino. Who's going to back up Harry Kane and Heung-min Son? Steven Bergwijn didn't really produce the goods, but Richarlison, we know he's going to score goals. I'm not a huge fan of his all-round game, but he's going to get in the box in the right areas. And I think he got 10 goals for a struggling Everton last season. So that's a decent option to have if one of Kane or Son is resting, particularly with Champions League football, or injured. And then Clement Lenglet, I'm not a huge fan of him defensively. I think he gets kind of roasted 1v1 by pretty quick wingers or quick attackers, and isn't the best in the air either. But he is decent. He's a decent ball player. So I think he'll fit into how Conte wants a left-sided centre-back to kind of push up and play out with it from the back and try and feed Harry Kane with those balls into feet, or try and loft those balls over the top for Heung-min Son. Lenglet, that is his probably biggest strength. But as I say, I'm not a fan of him as a pure defender. I think they are missing one thing maybe that they could do within the squad is a creator in midfield. They've got Kulusevski off the right, Perisic off the left, someone central. Obviously, Kane creates as well, but they have been linked with James Maddison. I think that would be a top buy as well. You could probably play him in behind Son and Kane. That would probably put the cherry on the cake of the window, but you're being a bit picky there. So, yeah, I think Spurs have had a top window, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Richarlison, obviously, we've done the preview of Spurs. Richarlison, he just covers all 3 front 3 positions. I think that's so vital and such a smart signing. Okay, 60 million's a lot of money, but I think he'll play so many games. He just strikes me as a Conte player because part of what made him so successful at Everton towards the back end of the season and in general was just his work rate, and we know how much credence Conte puts on work rate. I just think he's going to suit Spurs down to the ground, Josh.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think, like I said in the preview we did on Tottenham, I said he's definitely a player you can imagine in the North London derby. He'll either score a winner or get sent off. Like he just doesn't care. He doesn't care about all of the drama that comes. He pretty much is the drama, and I think Conte's going to love that and could really turn him into an animal. It'll be interesting to see like how many games he does play, because obviously I think it'll be pretty harsh to drop how the front three finished last season. And in a World Cup year, because he did play quite regularly for Brazil, it'll be interesting to see what goes on there. But yeah, I do think it's a smart signing, and just adds another great attacker to the options that he had at the end of last season.
Yeah, I've gone for Arsenal. I'm regretting a few things about. I mean, this time last year, I was pretty much spent all my time laughing at Arsenal and getting lots of abuse off Arsenal fans on Twitter. But I've been impressed with what they've done. I think Jesus is the best striker they could have got and solves a real problem for them. I think Fabio Vieira covers a lot of positions and is a really excited up-and-coming talent. Julian on our Arsenal preview is raving about Saliba. I suddenly feel like he might end up being the #1 Arsenal centre-back, and then that means they're really strong there as well. Perhaps some work to do in central midfield, but I'm just really impressed with what Arsenal have done in general, Raj.
Yeah, some very good buys. I think now...
I didn't even mention Zinchenko there. Sorry, Zinchenko as well. Great buy again. Covers multiple positions. Will probably play centrally for Arsenal. Really intelligent footballer. They've made some good signings.
It's interesting to contrast the two North London clubs, actually. Look at Conte's prioritising kind of work rate and aggression. Arsenal are prioritising technical quality. Zinchenko, Jesus, Fabio Vieira, they're all very good ball players. And that kind of fits into how Arteta wants to play. So I think both North London clubs have recruited well for the philosophies of their managers. And you're right. I think midfield, as you say, is probably the only concern I have. Do they have enough depth behind Xhaka and Partey? Should they need it? So yeah, other than that, it's a quality window from them.
Josh, I'm going to have to come back to you again because I'm not taking Newcastle as a serious answer here. That is not your answer.
It is, honestly. It is my...
So Newcastle have had a better window than Arsenal and Spurs?
Okay, they've not. But just so there's some variety on the show.
You've not answered the question.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Newcastle. I feel like we've done the other teams in a bit of depth, so I thought, why not give a bit of a shout out to Eddie Howe and what he's doing up in Newcastle.
I'm going to say Villa are going to win the league just to give a different answer. that's essentially what you've done there. Doesn't make any sense at all. Right then, Raj, except for Josh, then who's had the worst window?
There's a big standout, and I think it is Leicester City. I don't know if that's the one you were thinking of.
Yeah,
but obviously they haven't made a signing yet, and there's one glaring weakness I see in their squad, and it's at centre back. Obviously Wesley Fofana, top quality centre back, but we've seen the problems they've had for his partner, and when Fofana was injured as well. Who's partnering Fofana? Evans is constantly injured. Yannick Vestergaard not good enough. And then they were even dropping the likes of Amate and Ndidi back there. And Soyuncu has also declined a lot since his first 6 months in England. So they need a centre-back desperately. And it's kind of baffling how they've not addressed it yet. They've seen someone like Chris Richards go to Palace. I thought he was a tailor-made fit for Leicester. He's a good ball player and he can hold a high line as well. So I thought they missed out there. They've been linked with Levi Colwill from Chelsea. But the concern there is now Chelsea have been linked with Wesley Fofana. So is that going to be some kind of trade-off, and they're still going to end up at square one because they're going to get one centre-back in, Fofana out. So yeah, that's a big concern there. Other than that, they still haven't addressed that kind of attacking position on the wing. They've had Iosi Perez play on the wing. They've had Albrighton play on the wing. Obviously, Harvey Barnes has got one of the slots nailed down. The other slot has always been up for debate, so they haven't addressed that either. Up front, they're well stocked. Daka, Iheanacho and Vardy are quality options. But it's that centre-back area and that kind of right wing position which they need to address, and they haven't. Yeah,
Tarkovsky on a free as well would have been another one that I would have expected Leicester to have had a look at. Towards the back end of the season, I remember Maddison playing right midfield a few times, and they tried to firm things up a little bit by having three in central midfield, maybe because they weren't sure with what they were doing at the back. Good selection of fullbacks, Leicester, but I think, Josh, you can never stand still in football, and obviously because they haven't bought in anyone, they haven't improved.
Yeah, and Brendan Rodgers said right at the start of the window that he was looking to bring in about 5 players to sort of freshen things up. And as it stands, at the time of recording, they're the only side in Europe's top 5 league that haven't even signed a new player. So it's been a disaster, really. And it does seem that there's some stuff behind the scenes with their finances that they really need to sell first before they can buy. And obviously, Tielemans is the obvious one to go now. He's only got a year left on his contract, but no one's come in for him yet with anything concrete. And I've just got this feeling that Arsenal or United are just doing it deliberately to basically get Tielemans for as cheap as possible as late into the window, because Leicester are going to be desperate at that point. I think last season they finished with their lowest points total in 5 years. Rodgers had a bit of a wobble around February time after just 3 wins in 14 league games. I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last season. We were saying it before we came on air that this could well be Rodgers' final season. Raj touched on, Fofana's being courted by Chelsea. They've had to reject a bid from Newcastle for Maddison. There was even some stuff about Kasper Schmeichel maybe going to Nice in the week. So it's just been awful for them, really. But yeah, I agree. They've definitely had the worst window.
And there might be a reason for that as well. This is the first window that Leicester have had without their previous head of recruitment, Lee Congerton, who's actually went to Atalanta. So that might have caused a bit of the chaos in the back room. So that might be why they haven't really made many moves.
But if that happens, surely you just let the manager buy the players. But then that tells me that they're not confident that the manager's going to last the season. Because at the moment, I'd have Rodgers down as the first manager to go, purely because if he wants 4 or 5 players and they don't get anyone in, I think he might walk. There's a big chance they could lose someone that he doesn't want to lose as well. After Leicester just feel a little bit in disarray at the moment. They're obviously who I've picked as well, because you can't really spin not buying anyone into a positive. There's nothing you can say, is there, that they've had the worst window because they have not bought anyone, Josh?
Especially because, as I said, Rodgers actually wanted to go out and sign 5 or 6 players this summer, and they've not got any. So there's no way he can't spin it any other way. But yeah, it must surely be purely down to financial trouble. They need to sell before they can buy, and at the moment they can't get the bids for the right players they want to sell.
There's a lot of deadwood knocking around in that squad as well. If Ndidi or Tielemans are coming in, I would describe any central midfielder that comes into that Leicester team as being not good enough, deadwood, but they wouldn't be able to shift them, and they're probably on semi-decent money. You think of the likes of Chowdhury, Mendy, Amati sometimes can play midfield. They isn't that quality to come in.
And they signed that midfielder from Lille last summer as well, didn't they? Samara, I think.
Samara, yeah.
Who's been linked with a move back to France already, so obviously hasn't gone well there.
The financial issues might also stem by, they had a previous philosophy where they used to sell big players every summer. So Harry Maguire, then it was Ben Chilwell. Last summer, they actually didn't sell anyone. So there might be a bit of drying up of the funds there. And that's why I thought might have been better off cashing in on someone like Yuri Tielemans last year to keep that financial flow going. But then Tielemans is now in the last year of his contract, so he's going to go for a cheaper price. So there's been a bit of mismanagement there, I think.
They can't afford to lose him now either, because I've got them, spoiler. I think they're in a little bit of trouble anyway. If they were to lose him or Rodgers was to walk, there's something about Leicester that makes me think this season could end up being a bit of a car crash, but we'll see. Maybe before the end of the window, they'll do a load of business and make us look stupid. But currently, there is no argument for anyone else having a worse window. Even Josh can't think of anyone, so it has to be them. All right, then. Best signing, Raj?
I'll go for Yves Bissouma. I think I touched on that earlier. I think he's an amazing fit for Conte's style of football in terms of that work rate he produces off the ball. And again, I think he's going to elevate the technical quality in Spurs' midfield. So yeah, I've gone for him. And I think it was only 25 million as well, which is an absolute bargain for someone of his quality and his proven pedigree in the Premier League as well.
So I've done this based on WhoScored rating. So this is a WhoScored section. And I've done it based on players that the Premier League teams have bought from within Europe's top 5 leagues, so it doesn't really include anyone from Holland, Portugal, or further afield like that. The top 5 is Raheem Sterling, is the 5th best, Gabriel Jesus is 4, Perisic 3, Christian Eriksen at 2, and Erling Haaland is at 1, which isn't fantastic timing after the Community Shield on Saturday. He didn't have the greatest of debuts, or I guess it's not a competitive game, but yeah, didn't have the greatest showing, missed that incredible chance towards the end. But I do think it's a really interesting signing. I think we touched upon it in the Manchester City preview, that you just feel that Haaland is going to score 20 to 30 goals just because that's the type of player he is, and he's shown that wherever he's been. But it is such a massive departure to the way Manchester City have been playing for the last 2 years, and we saw the teething problem straight away. And obviously you don't want to get drawn too much into those sort of games because it's so early on. But he only had 3 touches of the ball after 25 minutes in the Community Shield, and that's obviously so unlike what we've seen from Guardiola's forwards over the last 2 seasons. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, he is our top-rated new signing in the Premier League.
Yeah, I don't think you can really argue with it. Good price as well. I know it sounds stupid to say 54 million is a good price, but really, it's probably half the price it should be. Let's face it. So that's an incredible buy for Manchester City, and he'll come good. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. If he stays fit, he'll be getting somewhere near 30 goals in the Premier League this season, just by virtue of how many chances Manchester City create. I've gone for Gabriel Jesus because I think he solves a massive problem in the Arsenal side. I think he's a very, very good player. If they'd have had Jesus last season, they'd have got top 4 Arsenal. They'd have got it reasonably comfortably. I think they were quite far ahead at one point and looked the favourites. If they've had a goal scorer, I think he'd have helped. I think Arteta's going to get the best out of him. He's worked with him before. He's got the relationship with Edu as well. He's got players around him, South American players. I just think Jesus is going to fit Arsenal like a glove. He's such a good player. He's a lot better footballer than I think he gets credit for. I would be a bit worried that he might stall Nketiah a little bit, because I think Nketiah ended the season really well for Arsenal. But you need options, and there is that option to shift Jesus on the wing as well. So I just think, again, is he 45 million Jesus? I think if he stays fit, he'll push 20 goals for Arsenal, and that's huge compared to what they had last season.
I think you made a really great point earlier where you said that he's the best striker that Arsenal could get. Cause I think we'd all agree he's not the best striker in the world, but for Arsenal to have attracted a couple of players from the Premier League champions without being able to offer them Champions League football, I think is massive for them. And obviously Gabriel Jesus is an upgrade on Lacazette and does fit the way that Arteta wants to play. So from that perspective, I think it's a great buy. And obviously we saw, as Raj said, we saw in the Community Shield that they felt Jesus' absence against Liverpool because the pressing was just nowhere to be seen. Grealish, Mahrez and Haaland didn't get anywhere close to Manchester City, Liverpool's back 4.
That's not a pressing front 3, is it?
No, not at all. And they've obviously lost Raheem Sterling, as Raj said as well. So yeah, it's a great buy. And obviously he's been smashing it in pre-season. He scored a hat-trick, I think, at the weekend. So yeah, good sign.
He's had a very good. Arsenal have had a good pre-season. So then, who's the worst signing, Josh? I presume we've gone off the same who scored stats for the worst signing.
Yeah. So use the same parameters for that. And unfortunately for Leeds fans, it's Tyler Adams, which is a bit harsh. He made 24 appearances for Leipzig last season, but half of those were from the sub-bench. So that did bring his rating down. But yeah, it's him. But I think the good thing is for Leeds that Tyler Adams is reuniting with a coach he's worked with several times before in his career. It was Jesse Marsh that gave Adams his senior debut as a 16-year-old against Chelsea in a pre-season game for the New York Red Bulls. And Marsh has been massive on Adams since he was a 15-year-old. So yeah, he's reuniting with a coach that knows him very well. The issue is that he's got to replace Calvin Phillips, who obviously had a massive role in that Leeds team. But yeah, and the stats weren't that great, to be honest, from him from his games for Leipzig. He was dribbled past almost as many times as he made tackles. He completed just over half his attempted dribbles, and he made a couple of errors in bad positions that gave opponents some chances. And if you think of the way Leeds have defended since they've been in the Premier League, they've been very guilty of giving those chances away in key areas of the pitch. So yeah, we've gone for Tyler Adams.
I've gone for Dwight McNeil. Of course, he scored 2 after I submitted these predictions the other night. So typical, vintage. But I stand by it, not because I think he's a bad player, but just because I think he's Richarlison's replacement, and he doesn't offer half of what Richarlison offers.
Yeah,
I think Everton hadn't had Richarlison last season. They were down. McNeil, I felt, struggled with pressure at times at Burnley. So I just think at a club like Everton, where expectations will be a bit higher, demanding fan base, I can see him going under a little bit. And again, I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a decent player. I'm not necessarily sure he's what Everton need to replace Richarlison's goals. For one, McNeil's not a goal scorer. So
he didn't score a goal last season.
Yeah, I think I heard something the other day. A ridiculous player has scored in the Premier League more recently than Dwight McNeil.
Alisson.
That was it. I mean, that's I can't look past that as worth signing, because obviously he scored 2 the other night in a friendly against Kiev. But to be fair, Everton did bring a fan on in that game as well, so he scored. So we shouldn't read too much into that. But I just think Richarlison's such a huge miss, and I don't think that's an adequate replacement, Raj.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was going to mention that later on, actually, in terms of our relegation candidates. So I might have them in there. But yeah, that's a big miss. McNeil's more of a creator, isn't it? That's what I associate with him. A good dribbler and a good delivery into the box. So you'll have Calvert-Lewin up there, but again, no one else really getting on the end of that. Yeah, my worst signing, I've gone for a guy who was on loan last season, and then the club have made him permanent, and it's Hwang Yi-chan at Wolves. I thought you were
going to say Coutinho then. I was getting a bit concerned.
I think that it's honestly a dreadful signing. He made 30 Premier League appearances last season, and he got accumulated 4.2 expected goals. Wolves' big problem is goals. Jimenez is not the same guy since he had that skull fracture injury.
And he's injured.
And he's injured again.
Yeah.
Fabio Silva's gone out. Podense is not a goal scorer. Pedro Neto, even in his best season, got 5 goals. I think that was in the 2020-21 season. Who's getting the goals for Wolves? I'm majorly concerned about that. Hwang, I remember the game against Liverpool at the end of the season. Neto and Jimenez played as a front two. They looked phenomenal together. Then Neto got injured. Hwang came on and Wolves lost all of their threat. He doesn't really have many redeeming features. He's got a bit of pace, but he doesn't seem to get in the right positions. And I think they paid 15 million for him, and there's no real rumours of Wolves getting another attacker in. So yeah, that concerns me, that signing.
He was actually second behind Tyler Adams as our lowest rated signing. So finger on the pulse there. And just back on Dwight McNeil, I think so last season he had the most shots in Europe's top 5 leagues without scoring a goal. He had 52 shots without scoring. And if I'm a player that is presumably low on confidence, I think one of the last clubs I'd want to go to try and rebuild my career is Everton. So yeah, I wouldn't be too optimistic about that transfer, even though I do think he's a decent player. And I guess the tactic from Lampard will be try and put as many balls on Calvert-Lewin's head as possible. But yeah, I would be a bit worried for Dwight McNeil's career at Everton. It could go quite badly.
Well, Calvert-Lewin can't stay fit either, so there's every chance he'll be putting the ball in the box for Solomon Rondon, in which case you aren't getting any assists either, Dwight McNeil. So it could be a bad season. Or Everton, I'm worried about them as well, to be perfectly honest. Let's look then at the top 4. We've kind of already covered this in our other show, so we'll go through it quite quickly, but we'll let Raj get involved because obviously we haven't heard his opinion. So Raj, who is winning the league?
So yeah, I've gone with Man City to win the league.
Is that full house? That is a full house, isn't it, Josh? Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I do. As I said earlier, I do worry a bit about that penetration in wide areas for them, especially if they continue with a Grealish-Mahrez combination. But I do think they've got enough outside of that. We've got Foden, who didn't start the Community Shield, and then I like the look of Julian Alvarez. Actually,
yeah,
he's got that direct threat, and he wants to make those runs into the box, and he looks like a decent finisher as well. So I think he might end up playing on the wing, and might end up actually being an Alvarez Foden combination, or a mix and match of the others as well. But the other signing they need to make is a left back as well. Obviously, they've linked with Marc Cucurella. I think the idea was you play Grealish a bit more inside, and you've got Cucurella's pace kind of overlapping on the outside of that. Similar could work with Alvarez as well. But Brighton look like they're digging their heels in. They need to come up with an alternative. I think Rafael Guerreiro from Dortmund's been linked now. But yeah, I still have them to win the league. Haaland fixes that main issue, as we addressed earlier, of having a clinical goal scorer. And I think that'll just be enough ahead of Liverpool, who I think still haven't addressed that main weakness, which is in midfield. I still think they're missing a starter in that kind of right-sided number 8 position, which is the most attacking in midfield. It's still Jordan Henderson playing a lot of the minutes there. I do think he has declined since his best. I think he's not providing the same defensive coverage that he used to. I think all his high-speed kind of running metrics have all dropped in the last couple of years. And then outside of that, you can either play Harvey Elliott there or Fabio Carvalho. I think, obviously, I like the look of Carvalho, but him and Elliott are still kind of very inexperienced. Can you rely on them for a whole season in that role? I just feel they're missing one body there. And I think I touched on this before in the Liverpool preview pod. When one of Thiago or Keita are missing from injury, which is very often, Liverpool tend to drop points. They haven't got that kind of extra controlling presence in midfield. Curtis Jones and James Milner sometimes deputise there, but I don't think they've got the same level of ability. So yeah, midfield is still my main concern for Liverpool.
Yeah, so you've got Liverpool second, same as Josh and myself. Who have you gone for third, Raj?
Third, I've gone for Spurs. Obviously, I had to because I've given them a best window. So, yeah, I've got them there. The only maybe doubt about that is how Conte balances Champions League football with Premier League football. He's had some issues with that before. Even if you look back to his last season at Inter weren't actually top of the league until they got knocked out of the Champions League. So if Spurs progress deep into the knockouts, it'll be interesting to see how he balances that. But they have addressed the depth issues there, obviously, with the signings we discussed. So, yeah, I'll back them for third. And then fourth, which is where I might have a bit of disagreement with you guys, is I've still got Chelsea there. Obviously, the main issue for Chelsea at the moment is they're lacking some kind of creative presence and a goal scorer in that front three. Obviously, the first choice front three is going to be Sterling, Mount, and Kai Havertz at the moment. Does that have enough goals in it? Sterling does get some goals, so that I think it has addressed a bit of an issue there. But outside the wing backs, I struggle to see who's going to create most of the chances. Mount, again, is a bit more of a kind of goal scorer rather than a pure creator. So I still think they're missing one attacker, and also they need to get another centre back in. Obviously, they've addressed Kalidou Koulibaly. He replaces Rudiger nicely on the left of the back three. Who they got as a right-sided centre-back? Azpilicueta looks like he's heading out. Christensen's gone. They need that. And Fofana's obviously the link. I think if they can get that in, maybe one attacker, I do back them for 4. I think Tuchel is still probably a better coach than Arteta and has a better squad than Ten Hag. So that's why I've gone for him in 4th.
Sensible. And I've got Chelsea 4th, but I'm not backing that at all. I've done it. It's too late for me to change, but I actually think at the moment, if the window's shut today, I think Arsenal would finish ahead of Chelsea. But I'm assuming Chelsea will get 2 or 3 more in before the end of the window. Josh, is yours the same? Spurs then Chelsea? What did you have? Man U? No, you didn't. No, don't tell me you put Man U in, or even worse, Newcastle into the top 4.
It might be Newcastle. I've been a bit cheeky because obviously we did the summer series and we obviously locked in our top 6.
Well, yeah, I thought we couldn't change it after that.
But I've been a bit cheeky here. I'm going on annual leave, so if anyone wants to come for me in the comments, then you can come for me. But I've got Arsenal down as 4th, pipping Chelsea to 5th. I'll come on to Chelsea a bit later in another section, but I just get a bad feeling from Chelsea at the moment. And if they address that, that's fine. But at the moment, I've got Arsenal in 4th, City 1st, Liverpool 2nd, Tottenham 3rd. But the rumours of Bernardo Silva to Barcelona aren't going away at the moment. And that would concern me for Man City, especially after losing Jesus and Sterling in terms of the midfielders.
Barcelona surely can't buy anyone else. They just can't.
You just can't doubt them at this moment. You don't know what they're going to do.
They've got a 100th lever up there they can activate.
Yeah.
So I think I've got more actual money than Barcelona at the moment, genuinely. This one's real. They can't buy anyone else.
Monopoly money goes far, Dan. That's all they've got to use. Honestly. It's going well for them. But yeah, if City lose Bernardo Silva and they don't sign Cucurella, then I would probably revise them coming first. But yeah, I've got City 1st, Liverpool 2nd, Tottenham 3rd, and Arsenal 4th.
Josh, what if there was a kind of swap deal? Frankie de Jong to Man City, Bernardo Silva to Barca. How would you see that?
I would hate that. As a Man United fan, after all this time trying to sign him, I would not be a fan of that. But I did actually say right at the start of the window, when the rumours happened, I don't know why that's not been explored, but I hope it doesn't.
So we've done top 4. Now we're going to look at dark horses, a team that we think could spring a real surprise. I don't really have one at the moment. I've got one down here, but I'm not convinced by it. Raj, who have you gone for?
I'm going to kind of support Josh's claim earlier. I've gone for Newcastle. So
I mean that's fine. You can do that, but you can't say they've won the window when you don't even believe that they've won the window yourself. You can say they're dark horses. That's fine. But what Josh did was silly.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so the reason I've got them dark horses, I think they can challenge for a Europa League spot. I think that would be a brilliant achievement for them, especially they were involved in a relegation battle for most of last season. I just really like the system that Howe's implemented there in 2022. He's got that 4-3-3 locked down now. I think he's pushed that defensive line a few yards higher up with the signings of Burn, and now he's got Botman as well. And then they've got a decent front press from the front. And the key in that has been the kind of midfield he's used. He's got this number 8 partnership of Joe Linton, who's converted from an attacker to a midfielder. And then the star signing they brought last January, Bruno Guimaraes. That partnership's been fantastic. And they've got so much aggression in that midfield. As soon as a team kind of bypasses their front press of Saint-Maximin, Wilson, and whoever plays on the right wing, as soon as the ball goes into midfield, those two are on top of you like a rash. And I think you saw that in the game against Arsenal at the end of the season. Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton hunted that midfield down like a pack of wolves, really. So I really like the structure he's implemented there. I think Botman is a good signing. He is an upgrade there. I think his ball playing ability is probably a standout feature. I was watching a few clips of Newcastle's pre-season, and some of Botman's passing out from the back has been fantastic. And Howell's been able to construct quite a few good possession sequences there. So I think he'll be an upgrade for Newcastle there. I think they still are missing a couple of things. Maybe a right-sided attacker. Almiron was playing that role for them last season and in pre-season. I don't think he's really shown enough to warrant a starting place. They need someone who can partner Wilson and Saint-Maximin in that attack, and probably a number 6 as well at the base as a defensive midfielder. I wouldn't be in favour of moving Bruno Guimaraes back there. I think he does well at kind of creating and scoring from in the final third. I think they need a number 6, someone who you guys signed, Boubacar Kamara, Dan. He would have been perfect for Newcastle. So they need someone like that who can lock down that position. Longstaff and Shelby are their options otherwise. But if they can do that, or even one of those two buys, I think they will challenge for a Europa League spot.
We said, well, I didn't say it, but Tottenham have had a great window, and something stopping me from putting them in the top 2 this season, because I think it would be a bit disrespectful to what Liverpool and City have done over the last 2 years. But if there's any team that's capable of perhaps springing an upset on those top 2 positions, maybe second more realistic, I think it's Tottenham. I think, especially with the changes that Man City and Liverpool are going through this summer, there could well be some teething problems. We especially saw that with Manchester City on Saturday. And I just think a first full pre-season under Conte, he's got the signings in that he wanted in very early. I think they should have an amazing season. They had the 3rd most points in the Premier League under Conte last season from the moment that he took over. I think 3rd is the minimum requirement for him going into this season. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually came 2nd, but something's stopping me from making that a real claim. But yeah, Tottenham are my pick for this section.
I'd go along with that in a lot of respects. I don't think Man City and Liverpool's point tallies will be as ridiculous this season. I actually think Spurs will go close and could potentially push for 2nd. I really like the look of them. It's Conte, which I think is a massive deal, elite manager. I think Spurs will be somewhere close. Maybe not in the title race, but definitely closer than they were last season. Right, we'll move on to the biggest underachiever. Well, a few contenders for this. Josh, who scored come up with, or who've you come up with?
It's me for this one. I did originally have Brighton down because I think Basuma is a massive miss for them. And if they were going to go on and lose Cucurella as well, that would have been massive. Not that I necessarily want them to do badly, because I really, really rate Graham Potter. But I've actually gone for Chelsea on this one, as I sort of alluded to earlier. I know pre-season results are largely meaningless, and I do tend to agree with that, but I do think you can get sort of red flags in pre-season. I just think the way that Thomas Tuchel has been really agitated with what he's seen, and I think the delayed takeover hasn't helped them at all, put them on the back foot. They've still not replaced all of the players that they lost on frees. They've replaced some, but not all, and they could still lose a couple more, which wouldn't be great. And I just think if you look at their squad, they've still got players like Ross Barkley knocking around, Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech, Werner. None of them have shown anywhere near the consistency needed, I think, especially with Arsenal improving, and I would hope Manchester United will be there or thereabouts as well. Pulisic as well, he's had his injury problems a lot. And yeah, I just don't get a good feeling when I look through that squad list. I see a lot of players that are drifting or stagnating and not a particularly fantastic squad. We sort of touched on that earlier. Raheem Sterling does sort of solve the goal problem that they've got, but does he really solve it properly? I'm not so sure. But yeah, looking from the outside looking, I don't think it's a particularly happy period for Chelsea. If they go on to address those issues, and that's great for them. But as things stands, I don't think they're going to make the top 4.
Dan, you're not going to like this one.
I already know what you're going to say now, so I'm not going to like it.
So I have gone for Aston Villa. And that, I'm not saying they're going to have a really bad season, but my expectation of them now, with the squad and the money that's been spent, is to be Europa League challengers, along with a team like Newcastle I mentioned earlier. And I think they will fall short of that. I think they will end up in mid-table somewhere. I'm not quite sure about the identity that Gerrard's trying to implement at Villa so far, especially in the attacking phase of the game. I think defensively, he's shored you up a lot. But it's the attacking side of the game I worry about. I think initially the plan was trying to play this 4-3-3 and then have 2 number 10s with Coutinho and Buendia kind of drifting in field. Now he seems to be plumping for 1 number 10 and then Leon Bailey. And then if Bailey gets injured, there's no actual kind of good natural winger in the squad to replace him. And Bailey has been injured quite a lot in the last year. And then you'll be back with the 2 number 10s of Coutinho and Buendia. And then that relies on a lot on the fullbacks to get forward and provide creative threat and product. But someone like Lucas Digne, he didn't really impress me last season. I think the stats where he created 3 big chances in the Premier League last season, I think he has suffered a bit of a dip since that kind of season he had before, or the 2 seasons before that, where he was one of the Premier League's leading creators from fullback. But he did suffer an ankle injury. I do wonder if that's left kind of an impact on him. And then Matty Cash on the other side, I know these 2 combined for a goal on the last day, but Cash isn't the most productive of fullbacks either. So yeah, I do worry. And also Diego Carlos, I know he's come in for big money. If I'll be honest, I was never a big fan of Diego Carlos at Sevilla. The guy who used to stand out for me was more Jules Koundé. Carlos is a kind of hyper-aggressive centre-back. He does jump out of the line quite a bit. And I've seen him quite a few times mistime that and make some bad judgment calls. So it will be down to his partner to try and sweep around him like Koundé did. And do Villa have that at the back? I do have some worries.
You're out of order, Raj.
I would hide for the rest of the show if I was you.
Coming on the show with that slander. Just,
But as I don't think you'll have a bad season, but I just expect Villa to be up there in the Europa League kind of spots, and I don't think you'll reach that level.
I mean, I could spend the whole show disagreeing with some of the stuff that you've just said there, to be fair. Luca Dean ended the season very well for Villa. He was looking really, really dangerous, and he was creating a fair few chances. I think he did get a couple of assists as well. Matty Cash was player of the year. He was much improved under Gerrard, and he scored a few goals. Come on. I'll tell you about Villa. In short, I think Villa have solved two problem areas with their transfer business. They needed a number 6, a good number 6, and they've got a top quality, high level number 6 now, which will free up the rest of the team and will help the defence as well. And I think Diego Carlos, I get your point what you said. It's valid. I think Villa needed a bit of nastiness in their team. Too nice. So I think Villa have solved two problem positions there. What have we got next then? Relegation, the 3 teams to go down. I'm not talking to you at the moment, Raj. So Josh, which 3 teams are going down?
I think we've actually all gone for the same teams. I think we've all gone for Everton, Bournemouth and Fulham. I think Everton, look, they've lost Richarlison, and obviously he was a massive part of he was a massive reason why they stayed up last season. Calvert-Lewin had his injury problems, so you'd expect them to struggle again. Bournemouth, their squad just doesn't look cut out for the Premier League to me. Been quite a quiet transfer window. I think they're about to sign Marcus Tavernier from Middlesbrough for about 12 million. So yeah, I don't think they're looking great. And Fulham, Marco Silva actually said this weekend, he was asked if Fulham are ready for the Premier League, and he said no. So it's not looking great for them. And I just think the decision to spend £10 million of your transfer budget on Andreas Pereira is just, I was mind blown, to be honest, that Man United got that fee for him. He's only good for wonder goals in pre-season, and he'll definitely get loads of bookings for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if he actually went back to Brazil in the new year. So not a great signing. Obviously, they need Mitrovic to actually finally deliver in the Premier League. Obviously, he had the absolutely outrageous season in the Championship last year, but previously he's never managed to really replicate that sort of form in the Premier League. And if he can't do that, then they're going to really struggle. So yeah, Everton, Bournemouth and Fulham were mine, and they were also both of your guys as well.
Yeah, Carvalho is a huge loss for Fulham as well. Obviously, a big source of output for them last year. Has he been replaced, Raj? Probably not.
Yeah, I think
they're probably looking at Andreas Pereira. But yeah.
I mean, that's not a like for like, is it?
No, I'm not actually sure what Pereira does as a number 10, to be honest. He's not a creator, he's not a goal scorer. So, yeah, it seems a bit of a nothing buy. And that back 4 as well, I think it's pretty similar to what they had last time. They got they've got Tete, I'll rate him as a right back. He's probably Premier League level quality. They've got Tosin Adarabioyo and Tim Ream and Anthony Robertson. That's a similar back 4 which shipped a lot of goals last time round.
Well, it's a worse back 4 because Joachim Anderson's not there.
Oh, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, it's worse.
The only decent buy they've made is probably João Palhinha at centre mid. I think he's a very good holding midfielder. Defensively, he's very assured. So maybe that can try and cover some of the goals they're going to leak. But yeah, it's not looking good for them. Mitrovic as well. Last time round is it 5 Premier League goals? I think I've got here. Yeah, 5 Premier League goals. So where are they getting the goals from as well? Yeah,
I mean, I think it speaks volumes that we've actually all picked the same team. I think Everton, Josh. It's just not. It's not there. He just isn't there. I know Lampard did well to keep them up in the end, I would say. But they're going to need Dele Alli to suddenly come alive. I'm not sure he's got that in him at this point. I look at their centre backs and I think they're not particularly good enough.
Seamus Coleman's still playing as well.
Tarkovsky's maybe Nathan Patterson will come in and play more football this year. Tarkovsky's a good signing on a free. You can't argue with that. But partnering him, I'm not convinced of Tarkovsky anywhere else but Burnley, because obviously I've never seen him play anywhere else but Burnley. Really, I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure.
And it looks like Lampard's gone for a 3-4-3 system in pre-season. So it's been a Tarkovsky, Michael Keane, Ben Godfrey, or sometimes Yerry Mina back 3. That's got disaster written all over it for me.
Screams own goals.
Yeah. And we saw how badly Michael Keane adapted from Burnley going to Everton, try and push that line higher up.
Yeah, Burnley, that's a worry. Yeah.
Burnley, you've got to be a good penalty box defender, and that's most of your job done. But it's different. And Lampard's record, actually, when he came to Everton, was 18 points from 18 games. So that's 1 point a game. That's good. That's treacherous stuff, isn't it? And then Richarlison is gone. As we said earlier, where the goals coming from with Richarlison gone. So, yeah, very, very concerning.
I even look, Anthony Gordon did well last season. I feel he's a little bit overhyped. That the front three of McNeil, Anthony Gordon, and Calvert-Lewin struggling to stay fit, that doesn't scream loads of goals and output for me. Yeah, Everton midfield's a bit stale still as well. Central midfield. They're going to need Dele Alli to go back to his Pochettino form, really, if they're going to have any chance.
Probably not going to happen.
Again, no, it's just, the simple fact of it is, are Everton a worse team than they were last season? Well, yeah, because they've lost Richarlison.
Yeah.
And Bournemouth, no chance. Get out of town. You're going straight back where you come from.
The two signings have been Ryan Fredericks and Joe Rothwell, haven't they? It's not going to move the needle much, is it? Fredericks was a third choice right back at West Ham.
Free transfers as well, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, why have they not bought anyone, Bournemouth?
They're going to sign that Marcus Tavernier, as I said, from Middlesbrough, but even still, like, it's not. I doubt he's going to make or break their Premier League status. So
it's going to depend on if Dominic Solanke can bang in the same amount of goals he did in the Championship, and who knows? I don't think that's going to happen. Last time we saw him in the Premier League, he didn't look up to it.
And Dominic Tavernier's hardly taken the Championship by storm. You know, them three. I can't see past them three at the moment, but I do think Wolves and Leicester will struggle around there as well. Let's finish then with our 1 to 20 roundup. We've obviously predicted the whole Premier League table, each one of us, and Josh, we'll start with you.
As we said earlier, I got Man City first, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Arsenal in fourth. Chelsea fifth, Manchester United, upsettingly for me, in sixth. West Ham seventh, then Newcastle, Leicester, and Villa in 10th. Sorry, Dan. Southampton in 11, Palace 12. Brentford, Wolves, Brighton, Forest, Leeds just above the bottom three, and then Everton, Bournemouth and Fulham, as we just said, making up the relegation places.
Interesting. The one that stood out for me there is what have Southampton done to justify an 11th?
Well, I'm a big fan of Ralph House.
Yeah, he's a good manager.
And I'm just quite excited by the direction they've taken in this transfer window. I think they've signed a lot of promising young players, and obviously you don't know how that's going to go. But it didn't do too badly for Palace last season. I was really impressed with the sort of turnaround they had. So I'm going on sort of hope and good feeling with Southampton there. But it could also be equally a really bad season for them, as it was a struggle last season. But yeah, big fan of some of the signings they've made and looking forward to seeing them in the Premier League.
One concern for Southampton probably is the goals as well. They lost Armando Broja. They brought in Sekou Mara, I think, from Ligue 1, and he got 6 goals, but he only made about 8 appearances, I think. So it's relatively improving. So that's probably what I'm concerned about. Is Adam Armstrong going to step up finally? Is Che Adams going to get more goals? Maybe that's an area which could hurt them.
I like the goalkeeper signing. He's a good keeper.
Oh, yeah.
I've completely forgotten how you pronounce his name. Banzu, I was going to say.
Gavin Bazunu, I think his name is.
He's a good goalkeeper. Yeah. I've been impressed every time I've seen him play for Ireland.
Had no idea that he was at Manchester City. Like, another one of their players that you just don't know Man City have, and they just sell him for like 15 million.
Yeah, I do think goalkeeper's been a problem for Southampton, but I think that will solve it.
They've signed a midfielder from Manchester City as well, Romeo Lavia.
Highly rated. Highly
rated, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how he does. Maybe it's fair. With those things, it goes one of two ways, doesn't it? They either do a lot better than you think they were, or they do a lot worse and end up getting relegated. Right, then it's my turn, isn't it, for my 1 to 20. So I've obviously got Man City to win the league, Liverpool second, Spurs third, Chelsea fourth, which I don't agree with even myself, my own predictions. Arsenal fifth, Manchester United sixth, West Ham seventh. I would say, that's pretty standard. And of course, Aston Villa Football Club in eighth, Newcastle ninth, and Palace 10th, finishing off my top half. Brighton milling around in 11th, doing what they do. I've got Forest 12th, Brentford 13th, Leeds 14th, Wolves 15th, Leicester 16th, Southampton 17th, Everton 18th, Fulham 19th, and Bournemouth to finish rock bottom. Anything there? Any standouts from either of you there with what I've come up with?
I guess that last season it was Arsenal fans coming in for you, and I think it might be Leicester fans this time. Where were they? I think it's absolutely fair, but where did you have them? 16th?
16th. Come for me, Leicester.
Come for me.
That's fine. The teams I put in the bottom, like bottom half, Wolves, Leicester, even Leeds to an extent. I think I've no guarantee the same managers there in 3 months before the World Cup. Like the World Cup, I easily think all those 3 managers could comfortably change when you take into account last season as well. Leicester at the moment, there's nothing there. There's worries. I just think it's going to all amalgamate and come together and be a poor season.
It's going to be a massive few weeks for them, isn't it? It's going to be a real test if they can, because ideally Rodgers is going to want to keep hold of the likes.
Rodgers will walk. I'm pretty confident Rodgers will walk at this point. He won't want to be associated with relegation battle or anything like that, and I think Leicester could go that way at the moment.
It'd be a massive fall from grace, wouldn't it, for him? Because at the start of the year he was touted as a potential Manchester United manager, and now it's looking absolutely horrendous for him.
Yeah. Where did you have Leicester? Sorry, Josh, I've forgotten.
In 9th, one place above Villa.
Certainly, I thought, why wouldn't you do
I
that?
just think that it's obviously been a really bad summer for them, but they do have a pretty decent 11. So I'm going based on the likes of James Justin having a full pre-season that he didn't have last season. If they keep Fofana, he has a full pre-season that he didn't have last season.
And I think Patson Daka is another one I think might settle in a bit better this season. He did look promising in flashes. I think Europa League and Europa Conference League, he's netted quite a few goals. So I think he's one guy who might be able to kick on this coming season now.
Go on then, Raj, let's do your top 20.
We've got the top 4, Man City, Liverpool in 2nd, Spurs 3rd, Chelsea 4th, Arsenal 5th, just narrowly missing out, Man United in 6th, Newcastle I've got in 7th, West Ham 8th, Leicester I've gone in 9th, same as Josh, Palace 10th, Brighton 11th, your boys Villa in 12th, Wolves 13th, Brentford 14th, Leeds 15th, Forest 16th, Southampton 17th, and then Everton, Fulham, Bournemouth in the bottom 3.
Newcastle ahead of West Ham. Do you think West Ham have had a good window? I'd say they've probably addressed some things. Probably nailed it into the centre back, but
yeah, they got really unlucky, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Agard's out until the World Cup potentially. So that was he looked like a quality signing, really. I think he was a big upgrade on Craig Dawson, who was starting most games for them. But they have brought in obviously Scamacca up front.
Scamacca, yeah.
It'll be tough to know whether he's going to settle in or not. Obviously, last time round, Moyes struggled to use Sebastian Haller and get the best out of him as a big money striker. Can he change it this time with Scamacca? Scamacca, what I will say, he's a bit more kind of technical with his feet than Haller, who's more of a poacher, and he's a bit quicker as well than what Haller was, and that kind of suits a bit more West Ham's counter-attacking ways. And I thought they've also brought in Flynn Downs from Swansea. I was speaking to a few people about him.
Yeah.
He's a pretty tidy footballer, apparently, in possession of the ball. So I think Moyes is trying to, Agard as well, is a good ball player out from the back. Moyes is trying to get more possession-based players in, try and get hold of the ball a bit more, rather than just being a purely counter-attacking side. They were looking at Filip Kostic as well, but I think he's turned them down. They needed that kind of, I think, a creator to get more deliveries into the box. Because I think Ben Rama's been a bit inconsistent. Fornals, I like him. He's a good player, but his figures aren't always that good in terms of creating chances. And obviously, Jared Bowen's more of a kind of a high-volume shooter rather than a creator. So they do need that kind of extra body, I think, up front. But we'll see if they can get that.
I like Lanzini as well. I do. At West Ham, I think he's a very good player. But yeah, pretty fair what you've come up with there. And I think that might be the end of the show. Josh, thank you as ever for being with me. Raj, your last ever show. How does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to go out on a high, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's been a pleasure to talk to you both. I really actually I enjoy shows like that, so I did enjoy the show despite there's some wild stuff coming out there from there. I don't know what happened to Josh. Been out in the heat a little bit too much at the start.
So I'm going on holiday.
Okay.
I'm going on holiday for 2 weeks. So
holiday mode
I'll probably come back normal.
Yeah. Okay. Then fantastic. Yeah, really enjoyed it. If you're enjoying the podcast, if you're enjoying Edge of the Box, please subscribe with your post notifications on. You'll know then when our next video is coming out as well. Let's get those subscriber numbers up. We'll be back. We're back for after the first week of the Premier League season. We're back, Josh.
Yeah, August the 11th will be the release of the next episode. We're going to swerve the opening game week because obviously no one really knows what's going to happen. But we'll be back then to reflect on the chaos of the first weekend and then previewing game week 2.
Yeah, after that game week 1, you're already like, your fantasy football's always in disarray after week 1. And I look back at some of the things I've said in this podcast and think, oh my God, what was I thinking? But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to the guys for joining me. And as ever, stay safe.